away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs and Co. Take a listen to this.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
I will never get over how embarrassing that is, but I'll tell you what is blowing today. Your money, yet more of it. £300 million to offshore wind farms. What do you think to that? And speaking of money, now a proposed fine for people who seem to insist on sitting on public transport, blaring out their ridiculous music and such like without headphones. Up to £1,000. That is a Lib Dem proposal. Do you agree with it or not? And another proposal, immigration from poorer countries. Should that be restricted? That was a suggestion made today. Do you agree with it or not? And if you want to claim benefits in this country, how much in savings should you be allowed to have? Of course, £16,000 is the cut-off as it stands now, but a report out today says that that amount should be higher. Should it? Well, we've got all of that and a lot more. I want to ask you about Donald Trump as well. Should he be allowed to address Parliament or not? Alongside me, till 7, Kelvin McKenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Steve McCabe, the former Labour MP. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. US President Donald Trump is meeting the Prime Minister of Norway, where the leaders discuss security policy, NATO, the war in Ukraine and trade. The pair denounced Russia's overnight strikes on Kyiv. The US President railed against Russian President Vladimir Putin this morning as the US seeks to help broker a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine. It comes just hours after Donald Trump accused President Zelensky of prolonging the war by resisting calls to cede Crimea to Russia. Mr. Trump and the Norwegian Prime Minister will be holding a bilateral meeting this evening, so we'll bring you the latest on that just as soon as we get it. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force state that last night Russia launched 215 drones and missiles against them, killing at least 12 people in response to this latest attack. President Zelensky has cancelled part of his trip in South Africa in order to make his return to Kyiv. He announced his foreign minister will now conduct all necessary meetings in South Africa instead. Sir Keir Starmer reiterated the need for a ceasefire.
I think it's a real reminder that Russia is the aggressor here. And that is being felt by the Ukrainians as it's been felt for 3 long years now. And that's why it's important that we get Russia to an unconditional ceasefire.
In other news, Sir Keir Starmer told an energy summit in London that the world has changed and that energy was at the heart of the global insecurity and local insecurity people are feeling. He spoke alongside the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Sir Keir welcomed Ms von der Leyen to Downing Street, where the two leaders have been discussing a defence deal on the sidelines. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer announced £300 million of funding for domestic offshore wind supply chains as part of a push to secure clean energy investment in the UK. The Prime Minister earlier said the fast-tracked funding would create jobs and strengthen UK security as he called for international investment in British clean energy. Elsewhere, thousands more mourners have flocked to the Vatican today to pay their respects to Pope Francis as he lies in state. Viewing hours were extended overnight in order to accommodate the huge crowds gathering outside St Peter's Basilica. Many more are expected to do so whilst the coffin remained there until the Pope's funeral on Saturday. Meanwhile, concerns around respects have now been raised as people have been seen taking selfies and going live on TikTok whilst standing next to his coffin. The pontiff died on Monday after battling double pneumonia. He was 88. Elsewhere, a student has been killed in a knife attack at a French secondary school. 3 other students were also injured at the Notre Dame de Toutes Aides in Nantes, western France. The attacker, reported to be a 15-year-old student, was arrested at the scene after being restrained by a teacher. There's no indication of a terrorist motive at this stage. The Prime Minister has visited the Royal Navy's flagship aircraft carrier, the HMS Prince of Wales, as it prepares to head towards the Indo-Pacific. Sir Keir Starmer spoke with sailors, aviators, soldiers and Royal Marines aboard the vessel, which set off from Portsmouth on Tuesday. From London, it'll now travel to the Mediterranean, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Japan and Australia on an 8-month voyage, accompanied by escort ships from international allies. And finally, the Liberal Democrat Party says that playing music out loud on public transport should be made illegal. Led by Sir Ed Davey, the party says that culprits should face fines of up to £1,000 if they're caught. As a result, the party are now attempting to amend the bus services bill, currently making its way through the House of Lords, in order to outlaw playing music and videos out loud from a phone on public transport in England. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour. It's back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, Tatiana. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, the panel, Kelvin McKenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Steve McCabe, the former Labour MP. Former Labour MP, actually, for Birmingham. Right, yeah. What do you think, then, when you see the absolute state of the streets of Birmingham? What would you be doing if you was in charge?
Well, I think the first thing is they've got to allow the extra agency crews to do their job. So they've got to stop the picketing that's blocking that. And if the union won't come to an agreement, I fear that in the end, all these jobs will go because someone will contract out that service.
Well, there you go. If you're in Birmingham, what do you think? So this has gone on now for such a long time, hasn't it? And also, did you see that story in the headlines there that Tatiana was just sharing? I mean, I'm laughing because it is just so ridiculous and disrespectful. Live streaming and taking selfies of yourself alongside the Pope's body. Did you see that, Kelvin? What kind of person thinks to themselves, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and see the body of this religious leader that I presumably respect, hence you will have queued up for goodness knows how long. And what you think to yourself to do is to live stream it or do a selfie, really?
Well, the only connection I have with dead bodies came once when I was...
God, do I want to know this
This
story?
is going back a few decades,
right.
when the Sun ran a picture of Elvis on his deathbed. Well, in fact, actually taken in the morgue, and you'll be pleased to know that the readers shared your view, and the sale collapsed. Murdoch went mad and started shouting and hollering at me. And from that moment onwards, I never showed any interest in dead bodies, whether they belonged to the Pope Elvis Presley or anybody else.
I've never really got it. I mean, no disrespect to anyone that chooses that kind of thing, but I can't think of anything worse, actually, than I'm not here. My body's just there and people are wandering along and gawping at me. It's not for me. Would it be for you?
No, it certainly wouldn't. But, I mean, we are living in the selfie age. Almost anything is fair game, it would appear.
This is very true. And I'll tell you what...
Can I point out that there will not be a long queue to see me lying in there, except possibly to give a thumbs up that I've passed on.
I bet there'd be a lot of people queuing up to just make sure you're definitely gone. I do. I reckon I might be... I might be wrong. But anyway, look, you can join the conversation, of course, all the usual ways. You know what they are by now, don't you? Let's start our show tonight, though, by talking about energy. Of course, a big summit taking place today. These big summits always fascinate me, you know, because I thought we were supposed to be really concerned about our emissions. So why do they feel the need to constantly be getting together in this way to discuss these kind of issues? Anyway, look, Keir Starmer speaking out today. Let's take a listen to him.
When it comes to energy, we are also paying the price for our overexposure over many years to the roller coaster of international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's household budgets vulnerable to the whims of dictators like Putin, to price spikes and to volatility that is beyond our control.
Ed Miliband, of course, has been playing his that embarrassing moment. I wonder if he thinks it's embarrassing sitting there strumming his banjo or whatever it was. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, he also speaking out today, as you would imagine. But listen, I found this interesting. The letter from the King.
This is the message from King Charles. As we all navigate the transition to cleaner energy for our planet and energy security for our citizens, summits such as these are of vital importance in facilitating shared learning between nations, particularly those in the global south and across the Commonwealth. Events over recent years have shown that when well managed, the transition to more sustainable energy sources can itself lead to more resilient and secure energy systems.
What do you think to all of this, Kelvin Mackenzie?
Well, obviously, I'm in favour of the kind of windmills, as Trump refers to them, and I'm also in favour of the solar panels. What I am not in favour of is the speed at which it's happening and the cost to the consumer. You always have to, as we do with defence, for instance, we have to pair our spending against the money that's coming in. We are a nation which is basically skint, and we're acting as though this was back in the 60s. It does make me laugh, this argument by Starmer. Of course, we have lived off the joys of North Sea oil, literally, for decades. Now that it's running out, suddenly we discover the joys of wind farms and the like. However, there's one other aspect which he didn't address, was that they have announced under the canopy of all this discussion today that they're going to ban locals from being involved in trying to stop either wind farms on land and or solar panels. You're now not allowed to actually get in the way of it. It goes to the local authority. The local authority takes a kind of temperature check and then says, OK, fine, press on. This is completely wrong, and it denies, it's one more denial of locals being allowed to have a say in what happens in their area. And I think the Lib Dems described it as a power grab, and I think it's fundamentally wrong. I want to see locals being able to decide what happens in their backyard.
Steve?
Well, I agree that we should press on with, wind and solar power. We've got to get control of our own energy supply. One of the problems with wind energy at the moment is most of it is generated in the north of the country in low population areas, and actually the cost and ability to get it to the main population centres is a real problem with the national grid. In fact, consumers are currently paying a constraint cost on their bills for the energy that's wasted because it isn't being fed into the grid. So You know, that's the fundamental thing I think we should tackle. I don't agree with Kelvin about the question of infrastructure projects. I mean, it is difficult, and I'm not saying people shouldn't have a say, but we have seen over and over again in this country major necessary infrastructure held back by protest after protest and delay after delay. No wonder we're losing out.
The main thing, Steve, is that we worry about bats and hedgehogs. The people themselves don't actually get as big a say as a collection of bats. And the other issue about that issue that you correctly raised, which is basically, are we in the South going to pay more money for our energy than those in the North? That is a dangerous and divisive approach, and I'll tell you what's going to happen there. The South will start saying, we subsidise the rest of the nation, actually, through our taxes and our wealth, and on that basis, perhaps we don't want our money spent in the way that it's being spent by the Exchequer.
I mean, I'd say to you that I'm against zonal pricing. I think it's a very difficult thing to actually operate, and I'd be surprised if we end up going down that road. There is an argument for saying that people who live near the infrastructure, overhead cables, things like that, maybe they should get a slight reduction in their bills.
Correct. Okay,
there is an argument for that.
I don't mind that.
A slight reduction? So, I don't know, let's just say you back onto a field or whatever. If you're now not going to have much of a say in terms of these, you know, solar windmill, what did you call them? Windmills?
Well, that's what Trump called them.
If you're not going to have much of a say about these so-called windmills at the end of your garden, would you then go, oh, you know what, I'll suck it up for 10% off my bill? I don't know. 50%? Would you want 80%? If you're against them, is there any form of discount, any amount of discount that would perhaps change your mind? Some countries do have the so-called zonal pricing, don't they? And it does seem to work for them. But is there anything that could convince you? Because these are kind of rumours at the moment. Ed Miliband is saying that it's under consideration, but certainly not agreed or decided upon. Is there any scenario where you would think, actually, yeah, we could make X, Y, Z, the North or whatever it is, pay less, or vice versa?
Well, I'm sceptical that you can make it work in any way that's fair and doesn't raise the very things that Kelvin has just suggested. As I say, I think there may be a valid argument for saying that people who are experiencing more of the consequences of the infrastructure could get some kind of reduction.
What about, I was going to say free energy, but I think that would be very quickly taken advantage of, wouldn't it? But I don't know, a portion of your energy for free. I'm just trying to think what would make me feel comfortable with having some of these things.
But you're not going to get a vote. I mean, let's
No, I know that, but what I'm saying
I mean,
is...
where you live, there is no space, as far as I understand, in London to put in a solar farm. But solar farms, when you see them, the way we have done them in the UK, are shocking things. And suddenly you had a nice field over there, and the next minute you've got a ghastly solar farm. I've just been in southern Spain, and they had a way of making them like flowers. They look great. Let's adopt that.
Right, well, I'm going to try and find some of those graphics one day because I'm intrigued by these solar farms that look like flowers. I'll bring those to you one of these days if I can. But look, after the break, the Lib Dems. I think this is interesting. This will divide people's opinions, perhaps. One thing that won't divide all of your opinions is when you're on the bus or the train or whatever, and people are blasting out their ridiculous music or conversations or whatever it is without headphones. We'll all agree that that is annoying. But what is the solution then? Potentially maximum £1,000 fine. That is a suggestion by the Lib Dems. Would you agree with it or not?
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Do you know that Gladiators is the TV show most likely to get you thinking about moving, about exercising?
Well, who better to talk to us about than Gladiator and Olympian Montel Douglas? Good to see you this morning, Montel.
What way does Gladiators work in getting people to move?
I think Gladiators spans all generations, which is one of the things that I love the most. You know, we have everyone from 2-year-olds doing our moves and feeling like superhuman, all the way up to, 90s, 100, people saying that they're really inspired to start moving, to start thinking differently about their health in a range of different things, but also just to think that, why can't I do it? And everyone's got a story, everyone's journey, their strength journey is very, very different. Mine's been very different, like I said, from summer to winter into Gladiators. Even that was a massive shift. So I think it's just inspiring people to think that they can do it.
Montel, what if I just hit upon that area about can't do? I'm in a position where I can't do a lot of things now. I regard watching Country File on a Sunday night as huge exercise for me. What if you just believe you can't do anything?
I'm really sad that you said that, Eamon. You can do whatever you're... the thing is, as well, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right. And I always say, try. I think many of us, the first time I climbed up of a wall doing Gladiators, I'm petrified of heights, and people know that. And you will never know that now, because I went on there and, I got frightened, I was brave, and then kept on doing it. And I think the hardest thing is to start. And what I hope is that, we're inspiring people to start something that they never thought, because you don't know until you try. And then also, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as you just make that first move, you can get better. And then you'll feel braver when you do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin Mackenzie and Steve McCabe alongside me. Susan, one of my viewers, has got in touch and said, can you tell Kelvin Mackenzie, not that she thinks it'll bother you what she's got to say, mind you, she says, please can you tell him that bats and hedgehogs have their own right to exist, thank you very much, and wind farms are decimating countless birds, she says. There you go, Susan. I've told him. Does that bother you?
No, that's free speech, and I'm pleased that people are listening to what I've got to say, whether they agree with it or not.
There you go. Now, I'll tell you what most people will not agree with, ladies and gents. Have you ever been on, it could be anywhere, actually, a plane, a train, bus, you name it, and there's always people, isn't there, who seem to think, and I don't know where this comes from, ladies and gents, but they seem to think that their desire to have their stupid conversations, and they often are really stupid conversations, or listen to their often awful music, takes precedent over anyone and everything else in that carriage. Well, now, let's listen to Ed Davey. He's had a few suggestions.
I think it's about the freedom of people to be able to travel in quiet so they can not be disturbed by their neighbour.
How could this be enforced, though? It feels like police are struggling to deal with the amount of crimes that are happening at the moment.
Well, first of all, there needs to be a public awareness campaign, because I think some people probably aren't aware that they shouldn't be doing this, and that also that it is illegal, and aren't aware that they could be fined.
See, that is, I mean, we'll all agree it is annoying, I imagine. But what is the solution to it then, Kelvin Mackenzie?
Right. Well, one of the issues that you face is that if you are annoyed by, actually, the thing I hear more often on the train is a mobile phone conversation going on where somebody is explaining in some domestic detail to either daughter or sister or somebody what they think. And that conversation, I'm basically a 35-minute train journey from Waterloo to Weybridge. Honestly, I presume that this call was going to go on all the way to Basingstoke.
Would you ask the person?
No, I would not.
Turn it down, or can you not do that?
I would not. And let me tell you that if somebody is playing their music in a way that they know is deliberately objectionable, I find it very difficult to think that many people would feel brave enough actually to point out to this, almost certainly a guy, by the way, I'm not saying necessarily, but almost certainly a bloke, do you mind turning that down for fear what might happen next?
There was a poll that was conducted that said that 54% of people said they wouldn't feel comfortable asking someone to turn their music down, and that actually rose to 63% when it was women that was asked that question. Steve, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think they have a point. I mean, it is extremely irritating, and I certainly agree with Kelvin about the phone calls, the people who kind of assume the carriage is their office or something, and you have detailed accounts for your journey. I mean, it is really irritating. But, I mean, I have to say it's hardly the biggest issue of the day. And, you know, I mean, it's a bit glib, actually, in a sense. It's a typical kind of glib, Lib Dem thing in a way, because how on earth are they going to enforce it? We don't have bus conductors on buses anymore. You know, who's, as you just say, most people would find it difficult to intervene. And the things we should worry about on public transport are people's safety, which is a much bigger issue.
Well, you see, let me challenge you on this, though, Steve, because you say it's not a big issue of the day. What I would say, actually, if you take just the symptom of someone listening to whatever, yes, you could argue that's not, you know, a huge issue. Yes, there's an inconvenience, but actually, I would say that the cause of this, the absolute lack of respect that so many people seem to have in society now towards their fellow citizen, I think that is a huge issue in society now. Because it's antisocial behaviour, it's a complete disregard of law and order, it's this belief now that you as the individual can literally do whatever you want, whether that's walking into Greggs and filling up your pockets without paying for anything because you feel like you can, whether that's standing up and in some cases overstepping the mark, stabbing people because they have the audacity to ask you to turn your telephone down or whatever it is. So I would say that this is a symptom of a huge issue in society.
I don't disagree with that at all, but I don't think the answer to it is a public awareness campaign. I think the public are pretty well aware of the things you've just said.
But what's
what we
the answer,
need
then?
is somebody who's making a proposal like this to also come forward with an absolutely realistic proposal for how they're going to enforce it.
Well, do you know what I would say that we need to have in society, but it takes a lot of courage. It needs a return of the collective, because what will happen is if you've got someone on your carriage of the train or sat next to you on a bus or whatever, and you as a lone individual stand up and say, do you know what, you know, that's not cool, it's not on, you're troubling everyone, turn your phone down or whatever. What there needs to be is the collective of the rest of the passengers on that bus or train that stand up and you present a united front and say, no, we're not having it.
Okay, with knife crime being what it is in London, right, and is the explosive area of danger in our capital and other areas, how many people are going to feel that this is something that they should do? Let's be honest about it. Look, let's be honest. But would I do it? Would I do it? I might stand behind somebody who did do it. I am definitely not going to step forward. I would feel too scared about the outcomes of this.
But these, and also, I can't help but wonder, where are the what kind of parent raises a child for that child to think that they can actually wear, because it's like teenagers, a lot of this is teenagers, that actually these teenagers and whatever sit on this bus and they think to themselves, I've got the right to disturb people in this way. I would like to trace that back to the parenting. Why aren't you teaching your kids to be respectful of the people around them? What's going on?
Well, of course, in many cases, a long time ago now, but I once worked with young offenders. In many cases, we're dealing with people who haven't been parented themselves. So this isn't something that's just happened. This is kind of a generational problem where we've now got youngsters growing up with the product of parents who haven't been parented either. I mean, either going to have to use the state to intervene at a much earlier stage before children go to school, the kind of things that Sure Start were supposed to be about all those years ago, or maybe family hubs could be now. Either we're going to have to do that, or we're going to have to adopt much more draconian measures for the kind of behaviour you're talking about. But I come back to the fact that that's okay. okay if you can enforce it. I'm very sceptical that we can enforce it, given the other problems we're dealing with.
Well, a fella earlier on this year, he was actually fined £170 by rail staff, so it was enforced. He was fined this money, but now he's actually challenging that penalty. What do you think to it all? Get in touch all the usual ways. Lots that we need to talk about after the break. Donald Trump, should he be allowed to speak in Parliament? Should we rethink immigration from poorer countries? All of that and lots more.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell of weather over the next few days across southeastern parts of Europe. Heavy showers and thunderstorms, but elsewhere mostly settled, plenty of sunshine. The odd shower affecting parts of Greece, also the Adriatic coastline. These could be heavy and thundery, but as we shift our way further west, mostly settled thanks to the Azores high, plenty of sunshine, though it just could be quite breezy at times across Madeira and Tenerife. The heavy showers are set to continue into Saturday, but from Sunday, lots of sunshine and feeling warm in that sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Motorists on the M25 in Kent should be aware of a vehicle fire between junctions 4 and 5, causing 2 lanes to close and approximately 30-minute delays. Similarly, Holton faces delays on the M56 westbound between junctions 11 and 12 due to a crash with 2 lanes closed. In Leicestershire, traffic is delayed on the A50, specifically between the junctions of the A6 and M1 at junction 24A, following a road traffic incident resulting in lane closures. In Devon, congestion is reported on the M5 northbound exit slip at junction 28. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs and Curtul. 7, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Steve McCabe, the former Labour MP, alongside us. Janet says, Michelle, you're all going on about loud conversations and loud music on public transport. Yes, it's annoying, but it's not a crime, she says. Well, there must be something that people can do, and that's the whole point that Ed Davey is suggesting. If you're going to be a public nuisance, he wants to hit you in your back pocket. But how would you enforce it? Of course, the million-dollar question. Now, Donald Trump, we all know that he definitely divides opinion, doesn't he? And now we've got 16 MPs, and it's a number that's growing by the day. They've signed an early day motion to try and block Donald Trump from addressing Parliament when he has his next state visit. Just a quick thought on this from both of you. Do you think he should be able to address Parliament or not?
Well, he certainly should be allowed to come here. I mean, after all, we allowed President Xi to come here from China. And do you remember what happened there, where we had the disgusting and disgraceful position of protesters actually being covered up in the Mall so that Xi would think that the people of this country didn't have a view about his communist dictatorship. So he definitely should be welcome here. My question is, I am sick to the back teeth of Trump, how can I put it, licking the backside of Putin while condemning and criticising the president of Ukraine. You know, the truth about the matter is, I very, very, very much hope that the Ukrainians, right, my families are not going to spill their blood for this, so I do recognise the argument. I hope that they carry on fighting, and I hope that we carry on arming them. And the one thing I like about Starmer, I hate almost everything else he does, but I like the fact that he never hesitates to put the boot into Putin and support Ukraine. And honestly, Trump, this is a stain on the fact that he's supposed to be the leader of the democratic world. Is he hell?
Well, he reckons that they're almost about to get to the point where there's some kind of remedy, solution, peace deal, whatever you want to call it. We shall see. Steve, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Kelvin about Putin and Ukraine, absolutely. Look, I mean, I don't know how many politicians would want to go and hear Trump at the moment, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm not sure this kind of gesture politics of early day motions is terribly helpful. I mean, the United States is an ally. We're trying to deal with some difficult situations with them, and whatever the issues...
Is it an ally, Steve?
Well,
it used to be. It used to be. It ditches its friends.
Whatever the issues about Trump, I mean, we have to think that on balance, they have been an ally for many, many years, and we hope they will remain an ally. And it's difficult to judge where Trump is from 1 minute to the next. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't know whether it matters whether they ban him or not, because I'd be really curious to know how many people would sign up to go and listen to him at the moment.
Well, some people actually think that we should rescind the invitation for that second state visit, and that actually Starmer shouldn't have kicked off proceedings with that invitation.
Well, I think that's a matter for the king, not for any of us.
But you must have a view. Do you think that we should be doing a state visit for Trump?
Well, I think that offer has been made, and I think we would look really cheap if we were to start indulging in that kind of petty politics. I don't think that would help the situation at all.
I think Starmer's brown-nosing of Trump is the equivalent of Trump brown-nosing Putin. But it's in our interest, so therefore we've got to carry on doing it. He should be invited here. Actually, I don't know why would we be interested in hearing the views of Trump. What we've heard so far, either economically or in relation to Ukraine, actually makes me sick.
Let me ask you this, moving the conversation on, because we talk about immigration. Often lots of people have very strong opinions on what the numbers should be when it comes to immigration. But what about the types of people? Because there's been suggestions today that actually when it comes to immigration from poorer countries, we should be tightening our belts and restricting the numbers on that side of the fence, and instead looking more favourably on immigration from the likes of EU countries.
Well, the only research I've seen on this comes from Denmark and the Netherlands. We've never done any research on this, but what it showed there, convincingly, is that immigrants from poor countries, and I'm talking about Bangladesh and Pakistan, are a net cost to the exchequer of quite a substantial amount. Immigrants that come actually from Western Europe, right, are a net gain to the exchequer, which actually plays to the argument which is that we should rescind Brexit because the quality of immigrants coming to our country would be higher. But that's a completely different argument. So, but however, These are the only facts we've seen. We should carry out research. Remember, the Home Office would never, ever, ever say break down crime by country. Now they've decided to do it. They could definitely work out. Under pressure.
They've not just woken up and thought
so we've seen some pressure start now. So therefore, actually, we should now see the Home Office, Yvette Cooper, who's had a latter-day conversion to this kind of view, right? Her announced we're going to work out which immigrants are making money for us and which are a cost to the country.
Steve?
Well, I'm not sure we should be focusing on countries. I think we should be focusing on the individuals who are coming here. We should be making sure we have people with the qualifications and the skills that will benefit this country and will be an addition to this country. I think it's actually quite difficult to be clear about it on a country basis, because despite the research you mentioned there, I mean, I think there's also some research that shows that Pakistani Americans do far better in American society than the vast majority in this country. Now, that would suggest that maybe something about the people you're actually bringing in. I don't know enough about it, but the point I'm making is we should concentrate on the individual. And there are examples in the past. I mean, I know that Bangladesh has made some economic progress in recent years, but at one stage, we used to have a reciprocal health deal with Bangladesh because we could get well-trained doctors and nurses there who came and helped our health service, and actually they invariably went back to Bangladesh and helped their country as well. So it's about the quality and the skills of the people you're bringing in, and it's about their record. If they've got a criminal record, what sort of person are you inviting into your country?
Well, I've seen that research, which showed that the Pakistani Americans came from a better area of Pakistan, and we seem to get the rejects and they get the good guys. So perhaps we should start looking at whereabouts they came from, and that before we make a decision about whether we should allow them in or not.
Well, what do you think to it all? I think no matter what side of the fence anyone sits on or viewpoint you all have, transparency, data transparency can only surely be a good thing, can't it? Because I was watching some commentary yesterday, and the suggestion was it was pandering to the so-called far right to try and ask for this data. I mean, how ridiculous is that? You get your data, surely, and from there you can make decisions and have proper, honest conversations, can you not? Anyway, look, I want to ask you after the break about benefits. £16,000 is the maximum amount of savings that you can have if you want to get, for the likes of universal credit. A report out today says that amount of money should be more. Should it? I'll see you in 2.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Pretty similar day tomorrow for most parts of the UK. The main exception will be for Northern Ireland, where it will be quite a soggy old day thanks to these weather fronts wrapped around an area of low pressure. They're only slowly chugging in, though, so it's going to be hard to shift once the rain moves in this evening across Northern Ireland, lasting for much of tomorrow. Some of that rain will fringe eventually into western Scotland, and the cloud is thick enough in eastern areas for the odd bit of drizzle, but for most places it's a dry night. Some mist and fog may form as temperatures dip down well into single digits, actually, in many towns and cities, and rural spots may even see a touch of frost. Not so cold further west because we'll have the cloud, the breeze picking up and the outbreaks of rain, which will last, as I said, for most of the day in Northern Ireland tomorrow. And some of that rain will get into the west coast of Scotland. The Outer Hebrides turning quite damp. Quite a grey start across eastern Scotland. Down the eastern side, that thick cloud in the morning could produce a little drizzle. The rain's likely to be much heavier for Northern Ireland, with that breeze picking up too. Some sunny spells over the Midlands, southern counties of England, a few mist and fog patches, but they shouldn't last too long at this time of year. They'll be disappearing by early to mid-morning, I'd have thought. The cloud will increase a little over Cornwall, Pembrokeshire, Anglesey. A little bit of drizzle is possible here. It's a wet day for Northern Ireland, and that rain pepping up in western Scotland. The cloud in eastern areas should break up a little more, so for many central and eastern parts, a dry and a bright day, feeling quite warm. Temperatures getting into the high teens, but a cooler feel for Northern Ireland. And again, some of those North Sea coasts will be pretty fresh. Now, by Saturday, that zone of rain from that weather front has only slowly crept its way a bit further east. So a dull, damp start for Scotland. There'll be some showers for England and Wales, but many eastern parts of England having another fine day on Saturday. And again, we could squeak up to 18 Celsius. Should be a dry day for Northern Ireland as well, with some sunny spells coming through and turning warmer for most of us on Sunday.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry alongside McKelvin McKenzie and Steve McCabe. Look, I want to ask you, I almost feel like I've been a little bit nosy in asking you, how much money do you have saved up for a rainy day? Some people might be shouting at the screen, chance would be a fine thing to have. Anything, Michelle? Others, you might be slightly more comfortable. But if you have got savings, then you find yourself hitting a bump in the road, what should you have to rely on then to help yourselves out? Should it be your savings or should you have entitlement to benefits? I'm asking because you can currently have £16,000, that is your cut-off, and still claim universal credit. Now, a report out today, though, says that that is not enough money. It goes against, they're arguing, this is a Resolution Foundation, they're saying it goes against government's objectives to try and get people to save more money. The thresholds, so your first 6,000 basically, you can have, your maximum is 16,000. Those zones, those thresholds have been frozen since 2006. Steve McCabe, where are you on this?
Well, it is true that people who are on benefits and have some kind of domestic crisis, I don't know, the washing machine packs up or something like that, do end up in even more difficulty, and quite often they end up borrowing money and it makes things worse. That is true. And it's also true, as you just indicated, that this figure was set in 2006, 19 years ago, and a number of governments and prime ministers in between. But my own view is it would be a bit ridiculous to raise it at the present time when the government objective is to get more people off benefits and into work. It seems to me it would be a perverse incentive. So, you know, the Resolution Foundation talks about the incentive to save. The government priority is the incentive to work. And it seems to me it would be rather stupid to raise it at this time.
So if I just give you some stats on this, so in 2006 to 2008, only 35% of UK families had more than £6,000 in savings. But then if you fast forward to 2020 to 2022, that had risen to nearly half of the UK families had that much money. And if those thresholds, and remember I told you the thresholds was £6,000, you can have your first 6,000 for free, basically. And then actually what happens is then the amount that you can claim reduces till you get to the point of 16,000 in savings, and then that's a cliff edge, basically, you're getting on. But if those thresholds had risen with the inflation, that would be 10,000, so you'd have your first 10, essentially for free, and then your cut-off would be 27,000. Kelvin McKenzie, where are you?
Well, the only research I've ever seen on this... Now, Resolution Foundation, by the way, is made up of a bunch of lefties who are constantly trying to work out how to move money from the middle classes to the skint. So the only research I've seen on this actually says that this was research only on the southeast, that more than 50% of those people that were polled said that they didn't have 500 quid. right? So that anything that happened, like your fridge, your dishwasher, or anything that happened that cost 500 quid, they were done for. And actually, 1 in 10 of those people said that now perhaps they were pulling somebody's chain, I don't know, said they didn't have 20 quid. Right? So I accept that a lot of people are bouncing along the bottom. Now, they should be in work, right, those people. If they're disabled or something like that, I totally get that. But there seems to be a lot of people out there, and I came across 2 of them over the last year through family circumstances, in which there was nothing wrong with them, but they didn't want to go to work. They were youngsters, by the way. These were people in their early 20s, and they simply weren't going to work. And the state, it was so bad, they were living in a flat. They were supposed to be skinned. They were living in a flat. There was a McDonald's on the corner, and they used to get McDelivery to them, and it was literally 100 yards away from them. So there are people out there who are simply at it, right? So I am not in favour of... so I don't know who these people are who've got 16,000 quid and are on universal credit. I find that a very odd...
Well, they're not if they've got 16,000, because that's the absolute...
Yeah, but the maximum.
No, if you've got 16,000...
You're OK.
If you've got 16,000, you can still get an element of universal credit. If you've got 16,010p, then you're literally off that cliff edge. And I just want to look at this report. So this report said that you've got 1.2 million families, essentially, that have lost entitlement to universal credit completely. When you look at this, I found this quite interesting. They say the average household income of the affected families was just 15,700 quid. Anyway, they go on and then they say nearly half of the affected families had relatively modest capital of £16,000 or less. But get this, 16% of those families had over £100,000.
They obviously researched Steve.
I know, but so then I think to myself, so if you've got £100,000 saved up, and this is, I guess, the crux of the debate, so if you've got £100,000 sitting in a bank account and then you hit a rainy day, you lose your job or whatever, I don't know, is it the state's responsibility to provide for you if you've got your 100 grand?
Instinctively, I would say no, but of course there is an argument that someone who has worked for the better part of their life and paid national insurance all that time and finds themselves unemployed and perhaps is entitled to get something back from the contribution they've been making. So, you know, I mean, it is a question of fairness. That individual will have paid in quite a lot of money from which others will have benefited. So, you know, it's difficult. But in principle, if you've got 100,000 quid, I can't see why you need benefits.
I know, see, it's a tough one, isn't it? And I'm open to be convinced either way on this, because I can see both sides. It's quite rare for me to be down the middle. It's quite rare for me to be on the middle on something like this, but I can see both sides. If you go out and you graft and you look after yourself, you take personal responsibility, as we all should, why should you not get a little bit of help along the way?
No, there's no help to be had. If you've got 100 grand in the bank, then life is down to you. You have done well. You know, you've saved hard for your family, and actually picking up, I don't know how much unemployed. You won't get universal credit. Therefore, all you'll be entitled to is unemployment benefit, which I think your viewers will know much more than me, but I think is about 80 quid.
Yeah, but then, so where's the incentive to do well then? So if you've gone to work,
you do well for your family.
You've saved up and all the rest of it. Yeah, but you're not going to be able to pass your £100,000 to your family, are you? If you've hit a bump in the road and you're depleting that...
Well, you've done the right thing. You have done the right thing. And doing the right thing does not mean you then get rewarded by the state. You know, you are doing it for yourself and your family, and not to actually end up having to claim off the state. I think 100,000 quid is a good lump of money, and will come as a shock, I suspect, to a lot of your listeners.
I know, but then a lot of people, they'll be getting in touch as well and saying, but Michelle, it's about things like care costs as well. So you go to work, you graft, you save up, and then what happens is you go into a home or treatment, you end up having to deplete your savings.
You do. You have to go down to 24,000 quid.
Never worked a day in their lives. They're getting that same care pretty much, essentially for free. Then you'll be sitting in your rocking chair in your old people's home. Why did it bother?
You've got to look after. You have got to look after yourself. We have become subsidy junkies, whether it's on universal credit or relating to your care in your old age. You've got to look after yourself. The state should try and keep out of it, except for the very, very genuinely poor.
Well, there you go. What do you think to it at home? I've only got a couple of minutes left, but I just want to tell you something else that caught my eye today. There's a campaign now, and what people are suggesting, if someone has committed murder, manslaughter or stalking offences, of course, when you come out, if you've got a victim, there'll be an exclusion zone. You won't be allowed X amount of metres or whatever it is close to your victim. Well, this group of victims are now saying, well, that's the wrong way round. It shouldn't be, essentially, that we've got this zone around us. It should be that the criminals have got a zone of which they are in and they cannot leave. Are you following the logic here? What do you think, Kelvin?
I think the idea of a kind of albatross for Alcaraz. I'm sorry.
Alcatraz. I'm reeling you off to one of those homes soon.
Hey,
Go on,
been
Alcatraz.
on the sauce again.
Yeah.
A kind of island where these people all live together. Fantastic. Now, the question is, which island is it going to be? And so if we can find some rather horrible place...
Well, it won't be the Chagos, will it? Because we've paid someone to take those off us, and now we're going to pay them to lease it off us. Well, what do you think, Steve?
Well, you'd want people to be able to object to having that island, wouldn't you? But, well, look, actually, I've got a lot of sympathy with the victims in this situation, but quite frankly, the idea, it sounds a bit dystopian to me, you know, some kind of, I don't know, sort of escape from New York, Devil's Island sort of compound. I think the real issue is the sentence should fit the crime, and the licensing, when they're released on licence, should be rigorously enforced, and that is the way to keep people safe. I understand the victims, but I think the idea of having some additional penal colony is, as I say, a bit dystopian.
If you're the lady who first raised this issue, she had a shocking time.
Yeah, her story's awful.
And her stalker has just been released. He is banned from coming within 4 counties, so we're not allowed to go into 4 counties around her. But as she points out, you know, basically that restricts her. So she can't go. But honestly, I like the idea of various kinds of murderers and stalkers all being lumped in together. I think it's a great idea.
Well, wouldn't that fix so many problems in life? If there was an island and you said to people, look, you know what, if you are a wrong-un, and you know you are, you wrong-uns, off you go voluntarily, off you go. So no one's breaching your human rights. Off you go to this island, and then you can all do all of your wrongdoings to each other. You can do all of your muggings, your murderings, whatever, but contain it to that island. That would solve so many problems, wouldn't it, in an instant? But it's not going to happen, is it, in a million years? But we can, of course, but dream. Lots of you getting in touch. Anne says, Michelle, absolutely that £16,000 should be much, much higher. You don't tell me how much higher, though, you think. Do you think you could have, I don't know, 100 grand, Anne, was the example that was given by that report? Lots of you saying, hang on a minute, Michelle, what about things like pension credit? You can have a lot less money and be affected when it comes to that. So you're suggesting there's an unfairness in the system. But look, gents, that's all I've got time for. Thank you. Thank you for your company. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Pretty similar day tomorrow for most parts of the UK. The main exception will be for Northern Ireland, where it will be quite a soggy old day, thanks to these weather fronts wrapped around an area of low pressure. They're only slowly chugging in, though, so it's going to be hard to shift once the rain moves in this evening across Northern Ireland, lasting for much of tomorrow. Some of that rain will fringe eventually into western Scotland, and the cloud is thick enough in eastern areas for the odd bit of drizzle, but for most places it's a dry night. Some mist and fog may form as temperatures dip down well into single digits, actually, in many towns and cities, and rural spots may even see a touch of frost. Not so cold further west because we'll have the cloud, the breeze picking up and the outbreaks of rain, which will last, as I said, for most of the day in Northern Ireland tomorrow. And some of that rain will get into the west coast of Scotland. The Outer Hebrides turning quite damp. Quite a grey start. Of course, eastern Scotland, down the eastern side. That thick cloud in the morning could produce a little drizzle. The rain's likely to be much heavier for Northern Ireland, with that breeze picking up too. Some sunny spells over the Midlands, southern counties of England, a few mist and fog patches, but they shouldn't last too long at this time of year. They'll be disappearing by early to mid-morning, I'd have thought. The cloud will increase a little over Cornwall, Pembrokeshire, Anglesey. A little bit of drizzle is possible here. It's a wet day for Northern Ireland, and that rain pepping up in western Scotland. The cloud in eastern areas should break up a little more, so for many central and eastern parts, a dry and a bright day. Feeling quite warm. Temperatures getting into the high teens, but a cooler feel for Northern Ireland. And again, some of those North Sea coasts will be pretty fresh. Now, by Saturday, that zone of rain from that weather front has only slowly crept its way a bit further east, so a dull, damp start for Scotland. There'll be some showers for England and Wales, but many eastern parts of England having another fine day on Saturday. And again, we could squeak up to 18 Celsius. Should be a dry day for Northern Ireland as well, with some sunny spells coming through and turning warmer for most of us on Sunday.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Durham, the A19 southbound between the A182 and A181 has a broken down vehicle, leaving one lane closed until at least 9:15 tonight. Further south, in Cheshire West and Chester, an incident on the A483 northbound between the A5156 and A55 has led to lane closures, causing a 50-minute delay. Conditions are expected to improve by 9:15 tonight. The M5 northbound in Gloucestershire between Junction 14 and Junction 13 is experiencing delays due to a broken down vehicle. Motorists can expect clearer roads shortly after 8:15 this evening. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debate.